Alright, we are live for our 3 o'clock live stream today. As always, we're going to give a couple minutes for people to join in, let you enjoy the view. If you are on right off the bat, can you leave me a little comment? Just let me know that you can hear, see okay. Checking out these beautiful redwood trees. Looks like we've got a couple of people joining. Again, just going to give couple minutes for people to trickle in here. But check out this beautiful redwood forest. Today I'm in Humboldt Redwoods State Park. I'm at the Hidden Springs campground. So if you're on here and you can hear me and you can see okay, just let me know down in the comments. Sounds coming in. Okay. And check out these beautiful trees in the meantime. All right, Sandra's on here. Hi, Sandra. Thanks so much for joining in. Thank you so much for being here. Check out these absolutely beautiful trees. Incredible. All right. Let me check on my own thing real quick, just to make sure. Okay. Looks like we're doing okay. Excellent, excellent. See you, Robin. Thanks for being here. Sandra, thanks for being here. We'll go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Kyle. I'm a park interpretive specialist for California State Parks. And again, today I'm out at Humboldt Redwoods State Park. This is at the Hidden Springs campground. And I'll talk a little bit about why I'm here today. First, I want to recognize, though, that so many of you are doing your part to stay at home, shelter in place. We really appreciate that, doing everything to help flatten the curve of COVID-19 that you can. We know it's hard times, so we do these live streams every day to try and fulfill our mission as state parks, to provide for the health, the inspiration, and the education of the public. So trying to give you a little bit of this nature into your own homes, trying to inspire you to check out some new places maybe you've never been to when you are able to come back to these parks, and hopefully we'll educate you a little bit on the way, you know, just by accident. So what I want to talk about today, again, I'm at Hidden Springs Campground. We are out here for a training. We have a number of our staff all attending a CPR training out here at the campground since it is closed. But I thought I would take this as an opportunity to do my live stream from here because this is the place that founded kind of my personal connection to nature. So I want to give a huge thank you right off the bat to my parents. As I was growing up, we were constantly going out into nature, and one of the big things for me was going camping at this campground. My entire life, we have been coming and camping in these sites that I am standing in here today that I now work in. And always we had this, you know, we were shown kind of just the beauty of nature. My mom always had animals in our house. We were always going out to natural spaces. And the camping trips that we came out here in the Redwoods were really where I kind of got this ethic of conservation and what really got me started caring about nature. And that is a big key for anyone who is watching, who kind of, you might have this frustration, right? Maybe you have a friend or maybe you have a child that you want them to care about nature as much as you do. You know, you've got this great connection and maybe you can't describe it or how you got it, but you really care deeply about nature and you want to be able to pass that on to people. The number one thing you can do is not so much what us interpreters do and kind of lecture you with, you know, we love to share the secrets. We love to tell you kind of some of the interesting facts. And a lot of time that's kind of the first place that we go when we want to kind of invite someone to experience nature like we do. We want to just tell them like, oh man, there's so many cool bugs living in the water, or like, check out this really cool thing about plants. But in order to care about something, one of the big keys is to have a personal attachment. So one of the biggest things that you can do for kids, for adults, is just to give them an experience in nature. And that is what my parents provided for me here. And for so many of you who have a really deep connection to nature, I bet that you had some formative experience as a kid. Really quick, I saw somebody is having trouble with it playing. I'm out at a more remote site today. We haven't done as much testing with the Wi-Fi here, so if I am a little pixely or if I am a little garbled and things like that, I deeply apologize. We haven't had much of an opportunity to test out this site. We were just out here doing a training. Usually we broadcast from elsewhere in Humboldt Redwoods. It just seemed like we had connectivity here, and I wanted to take advantage of that because this place is so special to me. Let's see if you guys do have any questions, of course, as we're going, please feel free to throw them in the chat. But I wanted to share just kind of some of my personal experiences of why this place is so important to me and how you can kind of pass that on to people. The really big thing is to let people have personal experiences in nature. So if you have kids, if you're a parent, one of the biggest things that you can do for your kid to create an attachment to nature and create this really special bond and ownership that you have over nature is to give them a personal experience. And it can be hard to do, but it's not forcing that experience, right? You got to take the kid out, or even an adult, and let them kind of form their own connection with this place. Let them kind of experience this through their own lens. Let them find out what they're inspired about in this place. And then you can always come in after the fact and do more education. Yes, Karen, I love that. I just got Karen just messaged and said, a suggestion in response: take a kid outside with a paper sack lunch to collect treasure in, and gather treasures in a nature at home table. Really quick, I do want to say, you're not supposed to collect things in California state parks, but it is really important that, creating that personal connection, and that can be as simple as starting a rock collection, or doing leaf pressings or leaf rubbings, giving the kid or even an adult that personal ownership over this connection to nature. That's really important. Let me go through. It looks like we are having a couple of questions coming in here. I really appreciate that. And if anybody wants to share kind of what their experience, where you got your connection from, if you do know where you found that connection to nature, I would love to hear some of your stories, because I think this is a really incredible part of kind of conservation that doesn't get talked about a lot, that people need to forge their own experiences to care about things. You need to know it first on your own, in your own way, before you can really start to make a connection with something. Miss my Redwoods. Yeah, we always miss the Redwoods when we're apart. Got a Sonoma Redwoods State Park docent tuning in. Thanks so much for joining, you guys. Really appreciate you all being here. Sandra says, I grew up in country. Later, after kids got into cattle ranching, kids hate the country and the smell. Interesting. So you grew up in the country, your kids got into cattle ranching maybe after you were out of the country, and they maybe haven't formed that connection. And part of that may be because that's associated with work. So if your only experience in being in an outdoor environment is working in it, so for instance, if your first job is cattle ranching and that's your experience, that's your job, maybe that's not the most enjoyable way to experience it as work. So maybe if they had gone out to country and visited a farm rather than working on one, that kind of forms a very different experience than if it's your job. So again, it's providing those opportunities to play, and often to play alone. That can be really hard for parents to let their kids do, especially in modern day and age, to let your kid kind of play alone in nature. But really, that is going to be such a powerful tool for creating connections in those places. I love your suggestion, Karen, to let a kid go out and kind of find their own treasures. Again, we don't allow collecting things in California state parks, but there are some other places, maybe even just in a city park or around your neighborhood, that you might be able to find shells or rocks or leaves or something, and let the kid find their own connection, what they're into, and just kind of promote that. Let them experience that. That's huge. Robin got a long question here, so I just wanted to take a moment. Does the California State Park system have a junior ranger type thing like the national parks? That was my favorite thing as a kid. Classes, yes, to do junior ranger things. Yes, absolutely, Robin. We do have a junior rangers program, just the same as national parks. We do have a junior ranger program through the state parks. Obviously, right now, our junior ranger programs are not happening as frequently. We can't have groups over 10 gather currently, so we're still kind of figuring out what the future of programming and kind of junior rangers and all of that kind of looks like. It very well may be online. So coming over the summer, kind of keep an eye out online. We might be rolling out junior ranger programs online. Again, something we're still fine-tuning on exactly how we would like to do it. Yes, thank you, Karen. Not gathering in state parks. Kim Cabarrus says she founded her connection to nature through wildlife tracking. Dad showed her her first tracks when she was 5. Absolutely. And that was one of my favorite things too as a kid, or as I started to get a little bit older, and it wasn't so much to kind of play around in maybe rocks or a puddle of mud where I could make my own fun. I started to kind of look for animals. Obviously, are hugely interesting. Kids love animals, adults love animals, everybody loves animals, and oftentimes you might feel disappointed with nature because the animals aren't showing off for you. Every once in a while, we get a question from visitors saying, when are you bringing the elk out? When are you bringing the bears out? We don't have ownership over nature, and you can't always guarantee that the animals are going to show up in the parks. So I advise for you to look for signs of the animals, and that was one of my favorite programs to lead. I called it Scat Track Fever. You'd look for poop, scat, you'd look for tracks, and anything else that animals might leave behind to give you clues of their behavior or where they might be. I did owl pellets last week. That's another huge way that you can look for signs of animals, is to find those pellets, and that tells you so much about them, and it can be a really fun activity. Sarah says she grew up in the woods, and that's where her connection came from, and I bet that you played out in those woods probably by yourself pretty often, just exploring, creating those own personal connections. That's huge. Leaf rubbings, bark rubbings, yes, those are all great. Former Humboldt Redwood State Park interpreter, love the Redwoods and still live there. Excellent. Yeah, playing in the creek, catching frogs, those are all great, great, great experiences to build that personal connection with nature. And thank you guys so much for sharing those. I really appreciate it. And I'm really enjoying reading your stories as well. It's awesome. Started camping in Samuel Taylor Park when I was 6 months old. Went at least 3 times a year. Last 40 plus years, Journey Ranger programs were the best. Yeah. So, I mean, camping can be a huge, a really great experience. And I remember as a kid, we'd be camping here, but some of my favorite moments, no harsh words from my parents. Again, I really appreciate them providing these opportunities. But as a kid, like getting away from your parents and having time in nature to like ownership over yourself, you feel like such a grown-up. You feel like such an adult. And I remember going with some of my neighbors would come out camping, and we would, go out in the inflatable raft by ourselves. And that was like such an adventure, to go just rowing down the river in a little inflatable raft. And now being an adult, I see that we only went like, 20 feet down the river or whatever. But, when I was a kid, that was huge, just to have this ownership over your own experience and to get away from your parents. And you're like, man, if I fall in the water, it's on me. I got to take care of myself. That's so huge for kids. Absolutely. Born in Eureka, raised in Willow Creek, Trinity, 100% connected. I love it. Owl pellets, tons of fun. Don't forget plants. Plants are tons of fun to learn about. But again, as a kid, I think that we get really wrapped up in this education system, right? And kids get so much of that kind of thrown in their face. They go to school where they're expected to learn. They come home, maybe they watch educational programs. Maybe they have a whole kinds of extracurriculars set up, music or sports. They're always kind of in this educational mode. And I think that it's really important just to give that free playtime in nature. Let them make their own connections. Let them unpack. Let them make up facts about the plants and the animals. It doesn't have to be kind of focused on education as much as it should be focused on just letting them connect with it. And I think that is so huge in so many people's conservation ethics. If you love nature, if you care about nature, if you want to preserve the natural world, if you want to fight climate change and all of that, I bet that at some point in your life, you had this time to just be in nature on your own, to form these connections by yourself. And that's hugely formative for creating this ownership over nature. Or connection to nature. I don't want to necessarily say ownership. So just wanted to, if you're a parent, those experiences can be so important for your kids. And if even, you're an adult and maybe your friend who's an adult just doesn't connect with nature the same way that you do, you can still make those connections happen for them just by exposing them. I mean, here, I'll turn the camera around here. Look at this beautiful forest. This is incredible. I, granted, am in a giant redwood forest, so this maybe is a little bit more beautiful than some places. We've got it good up here, but nature speaks for itself. I mean, this place is beautiful. There are so many natural, beautiful places in the world, and even in places where nature is scarce, you can find nature kind of making its own beauty. It's incredible. I love this story, Kim. When I was a kid, we went camping at Silverwood Lake one time. We got the idea to dig a huge hole in one of the campsites and dug this big 3-foot hole by our tent. Kids didn't get in trouble, but now that I look back, I wonder if we ever got in trouble with the rangers for that. Whoops. And that, as bad as it can be, that sometimes is a huge part of what forges those connections, is sometimes letting kids break the rules. I don't encourage this. It is so against the rules, but one of my favorite memories of being in these parks is climbing on the fallen redwood trees. Being able to climb up to this place that it was this amazing place that was forbidden for people to be. And while it was totally detrimental to the environment, and not good at all, not encouraging that whatsoever, for me, that experience is something, those memories I still absolutely treasure to this day. I still look back on that time so fondly, and every time I see a fallen redwood tree, I still want to climb on it. I'm not going to, but I mean, that experience is still so vivid in my mind, and so much a part of my personal connection to nature. And now I know I've been on top of those logs. I understand the damage that I could have been doing as a kid, and it makes me appreciate the fact that it exists and that it's protected so much more, because I really understand, you know, what's up there and the importance of it, because by breaking that rule, I learned more about it. So sometimes it can be pushing the rules a little bit, and I don't want to encourage breaking the rules or condone that whatsoever within state parks, but every once in a while, kind of turning a blind eye and letting kids be kids can be really important. All right. So I'm gonna turn this around, give you guys one last look of the redwoods here. It is an absolutely beautiful day. Again, this is Hidden Springs Campgrounds. This is in Humboldt Redwoods State Park. This is my favorite campground. Granted, I have some personal bias with my experience that I just talked about, being so connected to this place. This is where my nature connection comes from. This is why I care so much about the environment, is because of so many memories coming here as a kid. The smell of this place, the sound of this place, all of it is so nostalgic for me. That just being here kind of brings all of those memories back. It's incredible. Sandra asked, if one of those tall trees decides to fall, does it give you a warning sign? Does it give you much of a chance to run? Depends on the size of the tree. It is a little windy out here today, and honestly, it's kind of more of a worry about falling branches more than a tree falling. When a whole tree falls, it's going to make a lot of noise and cracking and things like that. But it is actually fairly dangerous to be in a redwood forest during windstorms, because giant branches like this one right here on the ground can be hanging, caught up in the canopy, and then just takes enough wind to dislodge that, and it can come falling down and hopefully not hurt anybody. Awesome. I see some more people kind of sharing experiences and things like that. Kim says she loves Hidden Spring. I love Hidden Spring so much. Teachers can do salmonoids in the classroom. Parents, ask your district to support state park field trips and fish and wildlife programs. Yes, that is a huge part of it. If you know, getting field trips out to the classrooms, the trout in the classroom program from Fish and Wildlife, that's really cool. Or salmon in the classroom, getting to see, you know, getting to have classroom pets, essentially, getting to see them grow up and things like that, and then returning them out to nature can be hugely formative for people. But I really want to promote, as much as I love that, yes, we want to support field trips, we want to get kids out to state parks, that's still through the education system, and that's still going to be forced to have some type of curriculum for it to fit in for the classroom. So the educational element has to be there still. And what I really, I just want to illuminate today is how important it is to provide experiences that are solely for attaching to nature, you know? It's not about the educational element. It's not about teaching the salmon life cycle. It's not about, you know, there's so many wonderful things to learn about nature, but you're not going to care about any of that if you're not already connected to this place. And that is what I really want to drive home today, is just that it is so important that to get kids and adults out to nature just for the sake of being in nature, whether that's to a local park, a city park, some grand state or national park. Nature kind of does the work. You just need to be there with it and spend some time with it. I have one from Sue here that says, still remember my first and only shooting star up in the mountains where it's so dark you can't even see your own hand. Special moments will stay with you forever. And Sue, just you saying that memory, I get such a vivid image of that in my head, and I can understand why that means so much to you. All right, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. I was talking a little bit longer than I wanted to. Sharon just asked, are the parks open now? Parks are open for day use. Camping is still not happening. I'm in a closed campground today. So if you guys are looking to visit parks, you can. We are discouraging travel. If you can walk to a park, that is the best way to visit it. Visiting local parks and things like that. We don't have lodging. Again, camping is closed. Cabins aren't happening right now. It's open for day use to drive into the park or walk into the park, hike into the park, bike into the park, experience it, walk the trails and things like that. We are still promoting social distance guidelines, staying 6 feet apart, wearing a mask if you're coming in any sort of close proximity to people, and then we do still have the internal, all of our internal structures are still closed. So our museums, our visitor centers, campgrounds, all of that, most of our facilities are still closed. So state parks are open for day use, but again, most of our facilities are not available right now. Thank you for your question. Swimming in the river is a great way to connect, Kim, and that is a lot of what I did camping here as well. We got Eel River right across the way, and I went swimming a ton as a kid. So thank you guys all again for joining. I hope this spiel wasn't a little too much for you, just kind of talking about my own personal experience, but I just feel ecstatic to be in this place today that I am so connected with and that I have so many great memories of, and I just thought it was a special opportunity to get to share some of that with you all, being as Wednesday is my normal live day. So thank you guys again so much for joining. If you have any more questions or comments or want to share any more personal stories, I've been absolutely loving reading those. Please throw them down in the comments. I think that's incredible, and it's so interesting to hear your own personal stories. I love it. Thank you guys all again for joining so much. We really appreciate it. We're on these live streams every day at 3 o'clock. We've got our staff shifting up right now, so you're going to be seeing some new faces on that. We've got a ton of new seasonal hires, so you're going to be seeing some new parks, some new faces, hearing about some new things. And again, just thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you so much for supporting this program. We've really had a good time doing it, and hopefully this is providing some of that nature into your own homes that you might be missing right now. So thank you guys again for joining, and hopefully we will see you again soon on one of our live streams. So long.